This episode is brought to you by Trailer Park Yard Games, where over 28 games are delivered directly to your party. We park the trailer, you party. Everything you've learned, but what's something good that a good takeaway that's like,
tell me something good.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I would say that's become a motto.
Moto. He's hello, Moto.
What's in the
You know
title?
your address?
Huh?
You know your address?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
So it's become.
He's had a heart
Who's
attack before,
president?
so we're always making sure.
What year is it?
What year is it? Good question. But that's become a motto in our office when someone's talking negative.
Let's have a chat, talk this and that with PB and Jaisy.
Hello, and welcome to the PB and Jaisy show. I have got
Hi, I'm Jaisy.
Beautiful.
Nice to be
Jaisy.
here.
And the beautiful.
The beautiful.
Yeah.
Bill.
Bill, that's Bill's woman's voice. It kills me. Okay, so I had just, leadership comes up all the time, and our country is lacking leadership. I'm not getting political, but I'm just saying in general, it's hard to find a good leader at work, at school, or wherever you're at. It's really hard to find good leadership. So I was going to ask you and Jaisy, put you on the spot, what do you think makes up a good leader?
Well, Jaisy, I'll let you go first. Ladies first.
I would say
That means he can't think yet.
something that is a mark of a great leader is someone that is able to find the strengths in the people that they are leading or the people that they are, trying to, grow, and they want to make sure that those things shine and those things are being used and they're growing those talents and also helping them attain goals that they want.
So maybe focusing more on the positive and not always the negative. Okay, that's good. What about you, Bill?
So I'm going to go. A good leader comes from a point of service. Where they actually serve other people and they help other people accomplish their objectives. And a good leader, if you walk into a room of leaders and there's 100 chairs that need to be set up, a good leader's helping set up the chairs, not sitting down saying, well, I've earned my stripes, I don't have to do this.
That's not my job.
That's not my job. Yeah, that's crazy. And then a good leader stays level-headed. A good leader sits down and says, okay, there's more than one side to this story. I've heard one. This might be how I want to react. But let's find out what the center of the pancake is.
Awesome. Okay, so the reason I ask and I bring up leadership, we have one of the best leaders
Yes.
that we know, a leadership quality, and we're going to get into that a little bit. But Kris, if you want to introduce yourself, first and last name, date of birth.
First name Kris, last name Johnson with a K. Kris with a K.
Oh, I thought
you meant Johnson with a K.
Johnson with a K. Kris with a K.
So Kris, tell us a little bit about your role. So Kris actually works here at our office as well, or serves here at our office, I should say. Tell us a little bit about your role and what you do the day to day.
Sure. So, well, first and foremost, I am a wife and a mom.
Oh, there you go.
And here at the office, I sometimes feel like I'm a wife and a mom. Yeah. I am a real estate professional, and I'm an assistant manager here at Century 21 Judge Fight Company.
Awesome. So so your title is regional manager.
Sales manager,
so what does an
district
assistant manager do? Is it just whatever he says, or do you you have your own
Maybe
set
some
of things?
days. No, I think I have my own set of things. Recruiting is a big thing, so bringing in new talent into the office, which is I enjoy, but my favorite is being the cheerleader in the office and encouraging the new agents to jump in and be successful and not be afraid of the things that really scare me. So I'm really a good BSer.
Awesome. Hey,
Perfect.
that's actually his name.
fit in.
So it's fine.
You fit in.
So you said your recruiting is one of your big roles. So how do you spot good talent?
Oh, I think talking to people. So I actually met a guy the other day who is in a completely different industry, and I thought he needs to be a real estate agent.
So your radars are always okay.
Just in who I'm talking to, how do they build relationships. I'm not looking for salespeople. While that's something that we do, I don't think it's the most important thing that we do. So I'm looking for people who want to build relationships, who want to do things long term and help other people achieve their goals, right? So home ownership is a huge one, but also I want people who are going to be in the office encouraging each other and not competing with one another, not beating one another down. But when we're all successful, it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Wow.
So, Bill, this question is for you because I believe you hired Kris, right?
I did.
So, talk a little bit about what you saw in Kris, and then what you think makes her a good leader at this point.
Well, I've seen several things, but well before we ever even talked about getting in management, I saw the interaction with people, and it was always about how can I give back and how can I help serve. And probably the best example of all of it is in watching the interaction with Kris and children. And you're probably saying, well, what's that got to do with leading people? Well, children
Same
are
thing.
people, but
Especially in a real estate office.
Yeah.
but you have to get down on their level, and you have to get rid of your ego and everything else. There's no place for ego whatsoever, and it's getting down and dealing with it. It's saying, okay, I want to learn how to do something, and how do we take care of that? How do we help accomplish this goal? And then what really works well is that we make, in my opinion, a pretty daggum good team. We come up with an idea, whether it's Kris or myself, it doesn't matter.
Usually Kris.
Yeah, usually it is. She's got a great one that we're going to talk about next week in the office, but whatever the case is, we come up with an idea, we get behind it, we make a plan, and then we go execute the plan.
Awesome.
And we do the things necessary to get it done. So a good leader is somebody that will stick with it and get it done. Somebody that wants to play at leadership is somebody that says, well, I want to know what's going on, but I don't want to do any of the work.
Gotcha.
And, being in real estate leadership, and part of that, lots of other leadership positions, you see that a lot.
Well, and people chase titles a lot too. There's people that, like, when you say, what do you want to do? I want to be a CEO of a company. Well, it doesn't really work that way. You don't just get to sign up to be a CEO, right?
Yeah, I'm
wants to do
23
that?
years old, and why aren't I in the corner suite yet?
Exactly. So, Kris, how have you been in leadership roles before this? I mean, other than running your household, because I feel like that's where.
That's a big one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like
is your
other
job experience?
other work. Have you been in a leadership
Here we
position?
go. Resume.
Tell us your
Bullet
resume,
point
yes.
number 1. No, I think that I have always, but I've not ever started at the top, right? It's always been, that's the goal. So everything I've done has always dealt with people. I wanted to be a special education teacher when I was in high school. But God had other plans for me, and that's okay. And now I see some of that, and I'm thankful that that's not the role that I'm in. Teachers have a really hard job.
Yeah, sure.
But so I worked in a special ed room. I worked with, it was a functional academic life skills class. So teaching kids not on grade level, like when you go to the grocery store and you buy a candy bar for $1 and you give them a bill that has a 5 on it, you need to expect money back. So kind of teaching them how to live life, right? So they're not taken advantage of, because it happens so often. But that was kind of just the entry. I wanted to be in a school, so I had time off with my kids. At that time, just one. But they don't make any money, and we needed help paying bills too. So my goal was to get into the office. So that was kind of just the starting. Gotcha. And then building the relationships. And I ended up in the nurse's office for a while helping people, and then I ended up in the office. I worked in a funeral home, and I started off writing obituaries.
So do you prefer working with the dead or the living?
Yeah. You said all of your jobs you've worked with people. And I mean,
it just depends on
What did you do at the funeral home?
So I I was the office manager in the end, but I started off doing obituaries. I filled in death certificates. I notarized paper for families. That was sometimes hard.
For sure.
But that is kind of my jam. That's what makes me really happy, is helping people, and especially in hard situations, just being that ear and that just patient, kind, we're going to get through this, it's going to be okay. You fall apart, I won't, Okay. And so I put together, you ever been to a funeral? You get the book where people sign in and the cards and all that. I put all that stuff together, so kind of organized that part of the service and just assisted the directors however they needed it.
And then you worked at a vet too, right?
I did. I worked.
wow, so many hats.
Yeah, I did lots of things. So that was
So
probably
dead people,
my
live
life.
people, or dogs? What are your favorite?
Dogs.
Dogs, yeah.
Yeah.
All the day.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
all the things. So, but it's just always helping when I go back and people say, well, what do you want to do? Every job I've ever done comes back to the people part. And so that's the part that I like the most.
Wow.
Even when they're not so nice.
Well, she's very level-headed, though, so I've got to tell you a story.
Oh, yes.
This,
we love stories.
I do love stories, but this is a true story.
I need a drink for this one. Shout out to Coombs there, by the way.
Kris happens to be on what we call the International Leadership Academy. So this is a very intimate group of individuals with senior Century 21 people, and they're on a Zoom call. So Kris's face, I think there's 8 people on this Hollywood Squares.
Okay.
And I could tell that it might have been a little boring. I walked in the office and I said, would you like a milkshake? She said, sure. So I ran down to get milkshakes. Nice thing, right?
Very nice.
It was very, very
And-
hard. I
good
thought,
leader
wow,
to do
Bill.
And I was a little
sweet.
hungry, so I got myself some fried food and I brought it back. And just a little thing, and I opened it up and gave Kris the milkshake. And I said, "Hey, I've got some fried pickles here. Would you like a pickle?"
Oh, no.
And she's on
Yeah,
she's
yeah.
on this thing, and she does not
I
like.
don't do
Kris
spicy.
thinks ketchup is spicy.
Yeah, so she grabs. She says, "No, thanks, not at first." And she says, "No, I'll try one." She gets one without even looking at it, sticks it in her
Pop it
mouth.
right in.
She's on the call.
I would have pooped on his desk.
Okay, Amber Heard. Oh my gosh.
That is
It
so
was
mean.
terrible.
Yeah.
She handled it
Wait,
real well.
So did you know that they were fried jalapenos?
I did.
You
He
said,
did.
oh, okay. Bill.
Yes, he did.
Yes, he did. It was not
Karma,
good.
you know what she is, right?
That's true. She will get you back.
coming
She's just
back.
she's watching and waiting.
I may not be the biggest prankster, but I am good at having a great toolbox, and I have some great pranksters in the
perfect.
toolbox. So
Yes.
that's not the first time. He did another one this week to me. He's been really full of himself.
What is the other one? Now I
Yeah,
want to
what do you
know.
No, it was
What
just
did you do?
no. That's
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
He
Is
told me
that
one
bad?
of my new agents I hired was going to leave. And so he texted
Like
me
as
and
a
asked.
prank?
Yeah. And they were in here coaching together.
no. She needed a form for somebody.
Yeah. And he said, hey, bring this for this agent. And I was like, was sitting in the office and I was like, oh no. Like, what? They're in. I was really heartbroken because I love her. And I said, is everything okay? I'm texting. And he's like, come in here now. So I come running in. She won't even look at me. And he goes, she needs this paperwork because she's pregnant. Okay, I'm in my 40s. She's probably my same age. I know how I would feel. Sorry for those that wouldn't be, but I would be like, what? She wasn't even. It was for her stinking mom. It wasn't
Y'all
even for
were
her.
in everything.
Oh,
like
my
she was in on
gosh.
it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So it's
got her
coming
to
back
play-
at you.
You got the new agent to be a part of the
Yes.
ruse.
The
Well,
ruse.
You know.
Well, I'm gonna get my truck painted. My new truck. I'm gonna get it painted red or orange,
Oh.
and just let him wait it out.
I think that was
Park it
Orange.
in the yeah.
Yes.
One thing I love to kind of shift gears, something that I've always loved, especially in sales and stuff like that, is having games and things that like keep people engaged and stuff like that. That is one of my favorite parts. It's like, it's not just being competitive, it's just, it's something to strive towards. It's a small goal or whatever. And so I know that you have spearheaded a lot of the amazing sort of, what would you call them, like office contests, yes.
We're
that
a little
we do.
competitive.
Can I say something on this before Kris talks about that?
Uh-huh.
So we've been around 85 years. We're not a young company, right? And we've been around a long time. We've done a lot of contests, and we're sitting in a room, and this is how it happens. We're going back to make sausage, right? So we're sitting in a
I
room.
never made sausage.
Yeah, no, we take an idea and we mix
vegetarian.
it all up.
Oh, okay.
Making the sausage, making the idea. So we come up with this idea. We want to motivate people on listings. We want to have a contest on listings, and we've had a lot of contests. And I got to be honest with you, most of them bomb. Kris takes this contest. Take it from here, because it was the most successful contest we've ever done in the history of our company.
Okay, so we were in leadership. We were in a group. I will not take credit for all of it because it was definitely a group effort.
Good leadership
yeah,
quality
that's
right there.
Yes, and so it was not just me. I got the one kind of holding the bag at the end, but that's okay. And we came up with the Lone Star Park, so off to the races. And I'm very much a kid at heart, and so it was like, well, we need to make it simple. We need to make it fun. It can't just be let's talk through it.
Right.
So that's why our office turned into a kindergarten classroom with a racetrack across the top, and encouraging all the other offices to do that. I think one of my favorite things is we're a competitive company, even within each other. So when one office knows another office is having a good time, well, they're going to try to step it up and beat it. And it was. The increase we had in listings was amazing, but to me, the best part was everyone that showed up at the races and
It was so
how much
fun,
fun
too.
they had. And it was relatively simple, but
It looked like
it
that
was
on my end as an
good.
agent.
Well,
so
that's good.
yeah,
That's
so
the most
y'all
important
were
part.
y'all were great.
Let me tell you, it wasn't simple for her. It was a ton of work, but the jalapeno was payback for me being in a horse's outfit, having to run around.
That
a
was
ring.
probably the
yes.
funnest part, making Bill and Tim and Joe dress up in the little blow-up jockey costumes and run around.
Well, and just so y'all know, so basically it was a listing contest, and we got different points for different things that we did. So it was taking a listing,
Using our title company.
using title company. Did we have what were the other carrots? Your team. So you were actually on a team
Yes.
of agents, so your team would all get points, and then the horses would move around the office. So it was really really cool. And I know it pissed me off because people beat me, and I don't like to lose.
Yes.
So it worked for me for sure, and the event was awesome. So thank you for doing that.
Absolutely. It was a lot of fun.
So what are some great things that you've learned along the way, like with all of these different jobs that you've had? What have you learned?
What have I learned? I have learned to watch my attitude, and that's a hard one, especially for someone. I've grown into being very goal driven. For a long time, I got married very young. I was 21-ish when we got married. Had a son really young, so it was always work and providing. It wasn't doing it for success. It wasn't, that was what I.
It's like means to an end.
Yeah, and I, in our background, like. Oh, this is going to sound terrible. That's not my job, right? My job is I want to be a wife and a mom and provide however I can. And so because we did it young, I got to do those things while Josh went to school so that in the end, he could be the provider for us. And it worked out wonderfully. But now it's nice for it to be my turn. And so things have worked out well for us. And so I can, we talk about what are my goals? What do I want to achieve? And he's been very kind and gracious and loving to me and saying, do it. If you want to be the manager, if you want to run Century 21 Judge Fight Company, go for it. Like, what are we going to do to get there? But sometimes when that happens, you get a little, your arrogance can kind of kick in and like, yeah, I can run a listing contest. Yeah, I can do that. So remembering, like, it's not me that's doing those things. Like, God's blessed me immensely. And so keeping that in check is a big one. And then I would say forgiveness. Things aren't always good, and so knowing
and forgiving yourself sometimes.
Yes, and I think I'm pretty good at that. It's sometimes forgiving others and saying, "Yeah, I forgive you," but then it's like, "But you really ticked me off." And remember when you and those are detrimental in every relationship, friendships, marriages, and things like that. So I've had some trials, and really God has taught me how to forgive, and I'm glad I wouldn't take any of that back now. So that's probably my favorite thing that I've learned through my life is just forgiveness.
Now, I personally think you're really good at the rah-rah and building culture, building others up. Was that something you are just gifted with? Is that something you have to learn? Is that something that you fake? Like, talk a little bit about that. And it's okay.
All my
a real
secrets.
Kris
Who is
Johnson?
really going to watch this podcast? What can I say?
My mom. It's just my mom.
All right, good. No, I think that I'm a pretty good cheerleader because when I'm cheering others on, I'm boosting myself up, and I'm not really good at positive self-talk. I think a lot of people, women in particularly, struggle with that, and it's easier to beat ourselves up and we're not good enough or this or that or the other. So when I'm cheering those other people on, I'm really talking to myself. I mean, when I do new agent training and talk about making phone calls, the first thing I say is, hey, listen, this class is for me. Like, thanks for letting me preach to me today.
Right.
Because it's easier to do it to them, to look in the mirror and say, hey, these are the things you need to do.
That's a great way to learn sometimes, too, is teaching somebody else,
Yes.
Because then you're like, oh, I should probably do those things I'm saying.
Yeah. And I'll tell them, too, hey, I'm telling you to do these things because I want you to turn around. I haven't had one yet. Well, Sarah Paget will do that. She's that friend, and I love it. No, when I say, hey, if I'm not doing this, I need you to correct me.
Oh, she'll tell you.
Oh, she will. Like,
You're welcome. Tom, let me know if you need a list.
There you go. Sorry, Tom. But that's one of my favorite things about Sarah is that
That's really
I
sweet.
only will come to her if I really and truly want to know.
Because if you ask her for accountability,
It's
you
coming.
better be ready for her to text you at 8 a.m. the next day being like, so where are you at with this?
Yeah.
Don't ask me for my help unless you want my help.
And that's so true. So that's like one of my favorite things about Sarah. But
Thank you. What else do you like? Just kidding. This is about you, Kris.
Friend. No, and that's the hard part. That is probably something I
See,
need
she
to
just
work on. I'm
raw-rah
really
me.
not
Yes.
good at that part. Like, no, let's talk about you, Jaisy. Or let's talk about you, Bill.
But I
like to
think
talk
you
about
are.
myself.
I think you are, and I don't think you realize it. But the conversations that you have, especially with new agents in this office. How can I help? What are you working on? Where are you at? And I think that's huge because there's a lot of leaders. I use that term lightly. not just in this company, but all over, that struggle with that connection. And they're good at when someone comes to them trying to solve a problem, but making that connection before help is needed, or just to say, hey, you're doing great, or hey, I'm here if you need something. I think that's a missing piece with a lot of people. So you're really good at that.
Thank you. And I think, where would we be without them? I can't be a leader if they're not willing to follow me, if they're not willing to listen and let me lead them. So I have to create that relationship, or else I'm doing nothing.
I'm going to ask y'all both, because y'all work together all the time. So I want y'all both to answer the question, what have you learned from each other? It doesn't have to be everything you've learned, but what's something good a good takeaway that's like,
tell me something good.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I would say that's become a motto.
Moto. Hello, Moto.
What's in the
You know your address?
Huh?
You know your address?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
So it's become.
He's had a heart
Who's
attack before,
president?
so we're always making sure.
What year is it?
What year is it? Good question. But that's become a motto in our office. When someone's talking negative, it's immediately tell us something good. So I would say that's probably something Kris brought to the table in working through some trying things. But I would also say just the reminder that there's more than 2 and sometimes 3 sides to every story.
For sure.
Slow down and listen to it. And Kris is a good balance to sometimes my way of wanting to handle something. Not everybody.
He could be a little bit of a
Aggressive.
Bill in a china closet.
Yeah,
Oh wait, that's
yeah.
supposed to be
There you
cool.
go.
Sorry.
So that's been a good thing.
Awesome. All right, what about you, Kris?
I think I've learned. Well, I don't want his head to get any bigger than sometimes
Close your
it
ears.
already is. But I really learned a lot. But probably the most impactful is don't react, respond. And so taking that second when things are going a little haywire, and you can apply it in all aspects, right? Real estate, life, husbands, kids, and just take a deep breath and think about it for a minute before you just fly off the handle. I can sometimes be a little spontaneous in that way.
Well, and I think I've gotten that from you too. Being the thermostat, not the thermometer. So being in control of the situation, not reacting,
Yes.
not reacting to the situation. So I think everybody needs to know more of that.
And sometimes it also keeping, realizing that it's not personal all the time. Sometimes things are just, they
What they
just
are.
are. They are what they are, or someone's just making a decision based off of the best knowledge that they have going forward, or what's best for them. And so to not always take things personally and think that it's a personal attack.
That's a Bill
something
quote.
like
What's
that.
your quote? It is what it is.
It is what it is. It's never personal. I'm just going to tell you right now, there is nothing that happens in our industry, our business, or our lives, especially what we do in our industry, that's personal. Ever. It's just not what it is. And it's someone's made a decision. And oftentimes we as humans want to say, they're attacking me. They've made
How could they do this to me?
How can they do this to me? And that's simply not the case.
Yeah.
And it's taken some years to get over it. I can tell you 22 years ago when someone left the first time when I was managing, I took it very personal. It was like it was a personal affront on me. No, it wasn't. We weren't the right fit. In the long run, it was the correct thing to do. And it was the correct thing for them. They're out of the business. They're doing something else. But there is no decision that someone comes in that makes it personal. They don't come in and say, I hate your guts, Bill Stedham, unless they're my ex-wife.
I say there may have been somebody
I've
that
been
said
thinking
that.
it.
I don't know. Well, and I think that's a hard position in leadership to because you want to build those relationships, but the downside of that is those relationships sometimes can end or can go a different way. And so I think how do you all deal with that? How do you deal with when you don't have that warm fuzzy or someone's disconnected after you've built a relationship with them?
I think that's probably the biggest thing I'm learning right now. So I think my leadership journey, it goes in different ways, and that's probably the big one right now is it's hard when you build those close family relationships and things are kind of rocky. I don't like confrontation. So to say like, hey, you didn't talk to me today. Have I done something to make you angry? Well, I don't want to really know if I did.
Right. But don't answer that.
Yeah. But don't really. Just say everything is okay.
Yeah.
But then on the other hand, sometimes, I think about some of the younger agents who I look at some of them like, man, you could be my kid. And so taking on more of that mom role and being able to have those because I have created that relationship saying, hey, get your stuff together. You wanted to be a realtor. Let's do this. We didn't hire you to fill a body in this room. We don't do that in this office.
Yeah.
We saw greatness in you. So let's show, where is it at? Come on. So that part is probably a little easier, but it's the when things are tough, and that's kind of when I lean in on him to say, okay, how do we, what do we do? How do we handle this? Do we just let it roll and maybe everyone's just having a bad day and things will be better tomorrow? But you can't let those things go on for too long because then it just kind of dirties everything.
Yeah, because then it's hard to come back from.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what about building culture? Because I think that's huge in leadership too. And you guys have built a great culture here in our office. What does that look like? How does that work? And how do you get a hold on how people interact and what you built?
Oh man, you started the culture, so I'm going to defer to you.
Well, building culture, and we didn't build the culture in this office. The office built the culture. We let the office grow. And we set some boundaries. We said, okay, here's the left side of the road, here's the right side of the road. Then we got together, and something that, we've done for years, and it really starts with concepts that Century 21 taught, that Judge Fight taught, that Jim and Jan have taught. But one of those concepts literally is what we used to call the President's Club, and you've been on it many times. And that's where we'll sit down in a room and say, okay, what are we trying to do and where are we trying to go? And many companies have copied that and done it. They call it different things. And then being smart enough, which I'm not, but I'm trying to learn, being smart enough to say, okay, we've agreed to do this. I don't have to do everything. What I need to do is, once we've agreed to do it, we're going to move forward and do it. And there we go, and we do things. And then when the owners of the company say, okay, here's something that we're going to do, you will never know whether I agree with a decision of theirs or not. Because once we've come out of that room, and I will tell you, there are some times where I have violently disagreed with a decision in the room, and that's our prerogative and our culture. But once we shut the door and we walk out, we're in agreement that we're going to do it.
It's all a team.
It's all a team, and we're moving forward. And that helps build culture. And I think it's serving, and it's doing the right thing. It's showing up at the hospital when someone's sick. And, if anything, COVID has hurt that, but it's kind of back now. We can go back to that. So you had a team member get sick in the hospital, and you and I, what'd we do? Immediately went across the street to the hospital. We were actually in a triage room. Don't know how we did that, because at the time the pandemic didn't allow it, but we still got in.
We got in. We busted in.
Giving back to people, Christmas morning and going out and giving teddy bears to people, doing things in the community, getting people involved, and recognizing their success and promoting their success. And to some degree, we've got to be careful with that, because then people say, hey, you're always talking about this. Well, the reality is they've gotten that position, and all we're doing is recognizing that. And guess what? A few years ago, they weren't there. It was somebody else, and you can be there now. So I think you've got to hold your standards. I've probably talked way too much on this.
I know it's your passion.
Real quick, so I would say too, though, it's sitting down when we're talking to them and watching, right, and listening to how they're responding to the things we're talking to. What is their body language telling us? Because if someone's sitting the whole time like this, they're not the right fit for us.
I was literally sitting like that when you said
I have a hard time with that.
I think there's
really
two
paying
things.
Attention.
Yeah, and Kris hits on someone. We're going to go over, so this is just going to go over, and that's the way it is. But making that decision,
Leadership.
what can I say? So, Kris hits on a couple things there, but one thing that's very important, and I've seen you demonstrate this with your people very big, and we've got to know their why. Why are they here? Does their why even make any sense? What's their why? Why do they want to come in and be told no? Because in real estate, you're told no a lot.
You're literally signing up for a job with no guaranteed money.
Yeah.
You're jobless every morning, and people get upset with you every day, and you might happen to make enough money to get your gas to get back home.
So you got to know their why, and for every single person I've ever worked with in my computer, I've got their why, and I know everything I can know about their family and everything else, so that we can handle that. And we've dealt with some tough things, and you were in a meeting the other day, and we won't get into the details on it, but we learned of a tough thing. And here's what I know about our culture. Yeah, we didn't know more than sit down after that meeting, when the people in that meeting were getting together and saying, we can do this, this, and this, and this to help out that situation. Whatever the situation is immaterial. That's culture. When all of a sudden it's not like, well, it sucks to be them, I'm going to add that to my prayer list or whatever.
It's taking action.
It's taking action. It's not making a little post on Facebook. It's saying, let's get involved and let's do something. And that's what this office does.
Yeah.
When
I think that our office is the Mansfield office specifically. Judge Fight has a great culture as a company, but I feel like our office specifically is so incredibly honed in on that, where no matter how new of an agent you are, how old of an agent you are, or anything like that, you just feel immediately comfortable, and like these are your people. You feel comfortable to talk about whatever's going on at home. You feel comfortable talking about whatever's going on in a transaction, and so it just feels like a family. Yeah. And it doesn't just feel that way, it is that way. Those Absolutely. Are the people that are there for you whenever you've got crazy things going on. Those are the people you can go to for it. So great. I really appreciate the culture that we've got in this office.
Well, and a lot of people may not realize this, and this is going to sound like a church service, and it's not meant to be that way, but we were in a meeting, 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, we had an agent going through an incredibly tough situation. Her dad, stage 4 cancer, another relative had died trying to help out the father, and this agent ended up with some serious health issues and was in the meeting. And don't know, because I've never done this in a meeting before ever, where I stopped the meeting and said, we're going to pray. And I asked for someone to pray, and the entire office sat there and prayed. That, you don't get that anywhere else.
Nowhere.
We still cut up. We still do our things. We're people.
We're fun.
I'm just really glad we don't have an HR department.
Yeah, sometimes,
That is the only thing. I wish, there's a lot of things that I wish I could report, but there's nowhere to report.
No
report. Whoa. Gerald Crow, do not listen to this podcast. No, but it is, we have fun. We know our limits. If someone starts pushing it too far, we stop it and narrow it down. But Mansfield gets a lot of credit for it, because that's where we're at. That's what we see. But I got to tell you, I can go to 21 other offices and see bits and pieces, and sometimes more, sometimes less, of different culture. But what I really love is when I see an office that maybe has been down a little tougher thing, and they come and they say, okay, we want to see what's going on here. And then they go do it better than we ever did it. Yeah. And you sit back and you go, wow. And that could be within the company. We've had offices from outside of our company. From outside of Texas. They actually got a passport and flew in here so that they could see what we do and then go back and try to put that together. The people that lead that are the agents of this office. It's not Kris and I. It's not Jim and Jan. It's not Ashley. It's not Eric. None of us have any impact on that. It's the agents in the office, and by us letting the folks be who they are.
Well, this is going to be longer than the Airstream episode if we don't move on to...
Oh, can we talk about Airstreams?
No. On that note, we need to go to Tales from the Law.
Yes.
Tales from the Airstreams.
Oh, no.
So this is a segment where we like to tell some crazy stories. You've worked in a funeral home. You've worked in all sorts of crazy places. So I'm sure you've got a story if you'd like to share one.
I did, but I don't know that it would really... I don't know that I can share it. I don't want to offend anybody.
Well,
that means it's perfect.
Like there's some strange things when you work in a funeral home and people are experiencing grief and doing really crazy.
Oh my gosh.
So,
crazy
whatever
things.
we're thinking is probably way worse than your story.
I've had a lady try to climb in the coffin with her deceased person that was there. She didn't want to leave him. She was going to spend the night. That was different. I had a young gentleman passed away, and the girl he was dating got to make the decisions for him, which was really kind of sad. And so,
like his parents were involved, but let her make the decision.
Well, I think they were married at some point, but not married anymore. Okay. So when you die, you can put your body any way you want to put your body. Like they can do that.
Yeah.
And it's the standard hands, whatever. Well, they were in their 20s, and so she had him laid out with his left hand out so that when she died someday, her right hand they could be buried together and their hands could be together. They were in their 20s, which is sad, but I thought, sweetie, you're beautiful, you're going to move on.
Yeah.
Like that.
But there's a guy over there eyeing you right now,
out
actually.
with his hand out all alone for the rest of, yeah. So just
sweet,
different
though.
kind of.
That's kind of sweet.
I was in my office.
I thought you were going to say,
weird,
like,
yeah.
it was like a gang sign or something.
I thought you were going to do that they're younger. He had like
No.
So about a year ago, I'm in my office and the phone rings, and this guy with a British accent on the phone is there. And am I talking to Bill Stedham? I'm like, I'm interested in accents, so yes. And he starts trying to sell me ads to go in bulletins and in this place of business. And we get a lot of calls like that. Any real estate broker gets calls like that, or owner of a company. And I'm listening to a little while, and I thought I had heard him say what his business was, but I wasn't really sure, and I was mistaken. So he wants for everyone coming in there to see our ad, for our company and what we offer. And I finally said, "Sir, tell me again what your business is." He says, "Well, we're in a funeral home, and I want to put your logo on all of our service bulletins, and I want to have an ad in a place there, so when people come in, they can see that this is sponsored."
You've gone to your heavenly home, but what about your earthly home?
Yeah, I was like, no thanks.
There are people that make some
I'm sure.
crazy money off of basically ambulance chasing or obituary
Yeah.
chasing.
And
It's
estate
crazy.
chasing.
I don't want my logo on the side of a coffin.
No.
It's not a good look.
All right,
Good
well,
choice.
let's level up a little bit because obviously some people that we know need to do that.
I've got a great quote from Adam Grant. He's on Instagram, and he's got a lot of little words of wisdom that are great. But this I felt like was really great for a lot of things that we do in our office. With old friends and new acquaintances, we expect calls to be awkward, so we resort to text and email. But the evidence shows that calls are no more uncomfortable, and they build stronger bonds. We shouldn't be afraid to pick up the phone to connect and reconnect. Long live actual conversations.
Oh, that's
I love this. This is great.
Yeah. Go in slides.
That's so true. We, especially a younger generation, I will oftentimes text people prior to calling them. But I find that whenever I do call someone, it's so much more impactful. It's so much more of a deeper conversation. It's way less surface level. That bond is truly stronger. So whether you're working with your clients, whether you haven't talked to your mom or your dad, I think it's really important for us to pick up the phone and call. So next time you're looking to text,
excited right now.
I am. This has been awesome.
next time you're looking to text, instead, I challenge you to call that person instead.
Do the hard thing.
Yes.
Do that instead of.
Yeah. But thank you
It's
guys.
been a long day.
Thank y'all so much for listening. Chris, thank you so much for being here. I feel like we had hours of conversation that could have just continued. So thanks for sharing your knowledge.
Absolutely.
And thank you guys. Thank you guys for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe and tell all your friends about it. And we'll see you next time. We out.
Just had a chat, talk this and that with PB